We are going to jump into chapter 6 today. We're going to look at 6-1, relating decimals, percents, and fractions. So what we're doing is going back and forth between decimals, percents, and fractions. There's one vocab word, which is percent. Percent means you're going to compare some ratio to 100. When you are going back and forth between percent and decimal, very simple to do. Say we have 23% and you're going to write that as a decimal. What you do is take the decimal place that comes after the number and move it to the left 2 places. So this is going to equal 23 hundredths. So when you're going percent to decimal, your decimal place moves 2 places left. The other way to go is from decimal to percent. Say we have this, and we're going to change that to a percent. What you're going to do is move that decimal 2 places to the right. So this would become 57%. And if you want to take some notes here, decimal to percent, the decimal moves 2 places right. So a very simple transition from decimals to percents and percents to decimals. It's important that you remember that that only goes 2 places. So say you have 137%. That is going to equal 1 and 37 hundredths as a decimal. If we had, say, 7/10, and you're going to change that to a percentage, remember that this is moving 2 places, so this would actually be 70%. If you had, let's see, say you had 9%, remember that that decimal is going to move 2 places, so you would end up with 9 hundredths. The other part of this, of course, is going fraction to decimal and decimal to fraction. When you're going decimal to fraction, it's very good if you guys can remember how to properly read a number. So say we have 53 hundredths. If you're reading this decimal 53, you're probably going to have some problems here. But if you can remember that our decimal places go tenths, hundredths, thousandths, 10,000ths, 100,000ths, millionths, that will be super helpful for you. Because when you read this the right way, 53 hundredths, that helps you to understand that this is 53 hundredths. Okay, it sounds the same in decimal and fraction. You say 53 hundredths, both in the decimal and the fraction. So if you can read those decimals properly, it's going to help you. Just remember, when you get it into fraction form, you need to make sure it's reduced. So 53 hundredths is reduced. Say we had 75 hundredths, so that'd be 75 over 100. We can reduce that to 3/4. So you always need to make sure that you reduce your fractions. Let's see, going fraction to decimal, you guys actually get a lot of practice with this one, trying to figure out what scores you got on tests. So say we had a test and you got 37 out of 52. What you're always going to do is take your numerator divided by your denominator. So your numerator divided by your denominator. And remember that we're trying to go eventually into a percentage here. So when you divide this, you're going to need some zeros. This is going, let's see, going to be a decimal when we get our answer here. So remember that then you would move it to your decimal place to the right 2 places. So you'd move it over here. It would be here now. Normally, when you're asked to get a percentage, you're asked to go to the nearest tenth of a percent. So what that means is you're actually going to need 4 decimal places, and I'll show you why, assuming this doesn't end up working out. Let's see. All right, so at this point, I can call this a day because when I change this into a percentage, it would be 71 15/100 of a percent. I can then use that 5 to make my decision on my 1, and my 1 is going to round up to a 2 because I have 5 or higher. So I would get 71 2/10. The only other thing in this section is comparing and ordering decimals, percents, and fractions. What I'm going to tell you, as we did earlier when we were ordering with decimals and fractions, you have to get all of your numbers in the same form. So you can get into whatever form you want. Typically, I would say that decimal is the easiest. Going between decimal and percentage is super easy to begin with. You're just moving that decimal 2 places, right or left. So you're going to be switching your fractions into decimals by dividing that numerator divided by your denominator. So the top number is going on the inside, bottom number on the outside. You're going to get your decimal, and then you can compare and order your numbers. Remember, when you're comparing and ordering decimals, you're going to first look at your whole number. If they're the same, you look at your tenths. If they're the same, you look at your hundreds. If they're the same, you look at your thousands. You keep going until you find a number that's different. When you find a number that's different, that's when you can compare and say whichever number is bigger, that's the bigger number. What I want you guys to do here is on page 284. I want you to take a look at 13 to 21 odd. Nice short assignment there. So page 284, 13 to 21 odd. I will see you guys soon with that homework review. Take care.